G'day, everyone. This is Expand, the Fandom podcast. We're a website, a podcast, we're a way of life, and today we are a bunch of reviewers of a year in review. You can find us at chroniclechamber.com. We're the Chronicle Chamber team. My name's Dan Fraser, and in this podcast, as I've alluded to, we're going to try and wrap up everything for 2025 in 2 hours or less. That's always the challenge we set ourselves. We're going to go over the tail of the tape. We're going to highlight every comic. We're going to go through the merchandise that was around the world in 2025, everything that we know of anyway, and has been messaged to us. And certainly we've got some of our favourites. We've got regular contributors like Scott from America giving his input as well. So before we get into it, got to introduce the team, of course. Jermaine, how are you, Jermaine?
Good. At the time of recording, it's Australia Day, so it's a Monday. So what better way of celebrating a public holiday than talking all things Phantom from around the world?
Absolutely. And yourself, Steve?
Yeah, nah, doing well. The weather's nice, but it's always nice to come in, sit at the desk and get Zoom to work so we can talk to each other about Phantom.
Absolutely. And as Germ said, it's Australia Day here in Australia, but it's also India Republic Day. So for all of our Indian friends, and we know that there's lots of fans in India, happy Republic Day to you as well. All right, so enough of what's going on today in 2026. Let's go back over what happened in 2025. So Germ, do you want to lead us off with the tail of the tape? What happened in the last 12 months?
Yeah, so just to kind of give, for those who have come in late, have never listened to one of these before, we do them every year. Normally they're a little bit closer to the beginning of the year. But with some podcasts with Sammy J, some passings with Elf Granberg and stuff like that, and us also having holidays and starting new jobs, it's been delayed by about a month. We're going to go around the world, kind of dig quite deep, and then as we go, we're going to talk about our favourites and stuff like that. So last year, I think we went over everything, and then we did our favourites. We thought we are going to, in an attempt to try and condense it, we're going to do it all at once. So in the show notes, we will have the tail of the tape, including like a timestamp of when we discuss, newspaper stories, comics from Australia, comics from the US, and stuff like that. So if you're only interested in those specific regions, you can kind of use it as a cheap guide. So we're going to start off from a worldwide perspective. We're going to start off with the newspaper stories or the Comics Kingdom stories, which might be a better way of pronouncing it or better way of explaining it. So 2025, we had 3 daily stories. Now, one of those stories actually started in 2024, and then we also had 2 Sunday stories. And again, one of those started in 2024. Now, from a brand new perspective in 2025, we also had Phantom 2040, A New Shadow, which started as well. So there would have been maybe about 8 episodes of that as well. So as you will see, there's been a bit of a trend for digital comics in that kind of, we saw a little bit of it in starting in 2024, and we've kind of seen a greater uptick of that in 2025. So not sure if that's going to be something that we might see more of in 2026. The other trend that we have seen, which does upset a few fans, is the trend of longer stories. And I think that's even increased more from 2024 to 2025. And kind of get the feeling that it's going to be something that kind of stays, because I think it gives us meatier stories. They might be a little bit slower, but it gives us meatier stories, which I think there's the vocal that don't like it, but there's also a lot of fans that do like it as well that might not be as vocal as those.
Rightio. Well, moving on from the newspaper or the Comic Kingdom stories, we go over to back home to Frew here in Australia. So Frew released 26 regular issues number 1987 through to 2012. There were 16 different cover artists, which is down from 17 in 2024. And this includes 2 variant covers by Glenn Ford and Ken Stacy on particular issues. Through creator stories, there were 17, which is up from 7 in 2024, but down from 21 in 2023. It goes up and down a bit. In 2022, there was 15. There was 12 in 2021 and 7 in 2020. So not as good as 2023, but pretty good nonetheless. Hunter's Prey and Falmang 3-issue story and Phantom of Vietnam. They're all included as one story. So it's not like Falmang's 3-parter was 3 stories. It's one story in 3 parts. Stories that were first time published by Frew, but not Frew stories. There was 17 this year, which is down from previous years. We've got 23 in 2024, same again in 2023, but up from 2022, which only had 11. Now, those stories, 10 of them were Team Fantomen, 3 were newspaper stories, and 4 were Fratelli Sparta stories, and we're not including the giant size comics in that one. Stories that had previously been published by Frew, there was 17 of those, which is down from 2024, which had 24, including the annual and replica series and the Team Fantomen stories like the Devil's Brotherhood saga. All in all, Frew published 51 stories in total, which is up from last year, which was 47 in 2024, but down from the previous years, 66 in 2023, 54 in 2022, 58 in 2021, a big number 60 and 69 in the years previous to that. But this year had the big number 2000, the big issue number 2000, which had the cover by Daniel Picciotto, if I remember correctly.
By Glenn Ford.
And there was a variant. I couldn't remember what the variant was.
That was Glenn Ford's.
The Glenn Ford's with all the mosaic one. That's right.
Yeah.
I knew there was another one there, but it wasn't in the forefront of my mind.
I'll just quickly jump in. If you are on YouTube, you will see a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. So it's not just our beautiful faces as well.
Which is just as well, because I'm just rattling off numbers here at the moment. You might be thinking, what the heck's going on? So if you've got something to actually look at as we're going along, it might make life a lot easier. And then, of course, there's the giant size issues that come out. Now, there was 4 of those. Issue number 32 through to 35. There was 4 different artists. There was 5 different stories. 3 Fratelli Sparta stories, 2 USA King with art by Bill Lignante. There was 7 in 2024, 8 in 2023, and 2022 had 4. And there was 2 hardcover collections as well.
Steve's told us what was there, and probably if you're on YouTube, there's been covers sizzling across the screen. But let's hold back now and have a look at some of our favourite stories, favourite covers to begin with, that came out of Frew. And it was interesting going back and having a look at these. I actually for me, they felt like a really solid run of covers across about 6 or 7 issues, starting with about 6 or 7 issues. 2000, about issue 2004 through to about issue 2009 seemed to be a really sweet spot of covers for mine anyway. Where I landed on, I was about to say no particular order, but probably in this order. Issue 2004, the pulp type cover by Ben Brady, who I think is new to the Frew cover artist platform this year. So what a great debut. I'd have him as my best cover of the year. Matt Kimes' cover on 2006, the Phantom's hand reaching out of the ground. That's such a striking image before you even read the story, and I'm sure we'll talk about the story at some point as well. The Man Who Cannot Die. And then my third would be Lauren Marshall's version of 2008. 2008 version, obviously being the one that had the Ken Stacy variant cover. But I liked Lauren Marshall's cover that went into the newsagents. A very sweet, romantic sort of a cover. So a bit of a mix there for me. My top 3.
Could I just intersect there? Sorry, Steve. It's interesting talking about your 2008 one, because I was actually talking to Lauren Marshall about that cover, because I enjoyed the cover as well. And she was saying that's her least favorite of all of the ones that she's done. And she really struggled with that cover. And she was, and she says, and she said something along the lines of, I'm not going to listen to the podcast because I'm afraid you guys are going to pull it apart too much, because I was really not happy with it. So for you to be able to say along the opposite, it's I
I
think
guess
it's pretty cool.
if I think back to Lauren's other covers, she captures a lot of action and very dynamic covers images typically, and I suppose this one as a more staid or quiet image might be why she feels like that. But Lauren, if you did choose to listen, I loved it. So good work.
Just send her that as a soundbite.
Yeah. What did you guys?
Well, for my mind, I went with for number one. I went for 2007, which was the lion painting. I thought that one was my favorite. I went for 2006 with the Kime, the hand. I thought was very striking. And I thought I'd try to pull in a giant size every year. And this year I went with number 35. It just was fun. There was lots of things going on, like one of those. Reminds me of those old spy movies, and there's always people running around and different the way that the camera works and different slideshows and all that sort of stuff. Just kind of reminded me of that. Now, I also thought that there was a great cover run, but I went with 97 through to 99. I thought there was a great run of covers.
Was that the Devil's Brotherhood triple?
Not necessarily, no. There was the one where he's falling off the crane, hanging onto the edge of the train, and also 1991 I put in there as well. Now, like you said, I think there's a lot of great cover work this year, but I want to put a particular shout out for the Replica series. I thought the Replica series had some great covers this year, and it was pleasing to see.
It's interesting you say that because I've just gone through my top three. I wrote down my top five and then picked my top three to go into the run sheet. 4 and 5 were Replica series. So the Lion Painting 2007, same as you've mentioned, and Matt Kime's 1999 sort of a poster type image. They would have been my 4 and 5. So yeah, I agree. The replicas, in years gone past, we would have had the 4 replica issues as last, second last, third last, and fourth last. But now for us to be talking about them in the top 3 to 5, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, great shout out regarding that. So I also had 2007, which was the Lion Painting, which obviously is I don't know what the right word is. It's a re-imaging or a modernized feel of one of those covers that was in the original run. And that's one of the things that I like about how Will Playden did that is he used one of those older covers and then modernize it and put his touch to it. I thought that was really good. 2009, which was another Ben Brady. I believe, Steve, you might have been one of the first ones to actually get a Ben Brady original Phantom drawing. So a great pickup there. Little sketch. And then the other one that I thought was, again, probably the Christmas cover, 2012, by Alex Tripp. And one of the things that I like about that is Alex Tripp's done some great ones, like you mentioned, Steve. You mentioned 1991, which is him running through, with Hero on the back, and then 1998, which is him hanging on the side of the train. And then you've got there is some really great action scene ones, and then you've got the pause in the moment, like you made mention with 2008 as well. So I thought there was a nice balance with those.
And good on you for giving Will the shout out. We were all talking about issue 2007, but to name the artist, we definitely need to make sure we do that. So good on you, Will Playden, and he just continues to supply, 1 or 2 covers a year, and they're all rippers. Love his work. All right, so moving on from best or our favourite covers from Frew for the year to our favourite story. Now, I do have to say I found this a little bit more challenging because it wasn't, behind the scenes, Germ provided us with a folder of images so we could work through the covers. We didn't have the list that I usually produce for our best of the year annual poll that we put out, and that's usually what I scan through, or putting the poll together reminds me of what all the stories were. Apparently no one missed the poll, because I don't know about you guys, but not a single person reached out to say, hey, where's your best of Frew poll? So if anyone's looking for the results of that, well, it wouldn't hurt someone to say, hey, why don't you do it? Anyway, we decided not to do it this year and didn't hear any feedback to the contrary. So it was a little bit more challenging, I think, to go through and identify our best story of the year because we actually had to look at covers and maybe flick back through books to remember them. Steve, how did you find the process?
Very much like you said, I was going through the covers and reminding what the stories were, and then reminding myself that that the covers were only front covers. I might only show one story, and then I went to Fan Wiki to look for something else. Oh, there was a back cover. Oh, yeah, that's right. There was another story in there. But having said all that, I noticed when I was writing on the run sheet my favorites, I was writing mine down. Then very soon after, you wrote yours down too, Dan. I thought,
Yeah.
I got in first.
No,
so,
we were filling it in pretty much at the same time.
My top story is Waiting for Dad. It's the Shane Foley's story, which is in issue 1997. It's a short story, not very long at all, but the emotional depth in that story is just incredible. Yeah. And the Phantom doesn't even appear in it.
Yeah,
like it's fantastic. I don't know if we had threes, but I also put in I Chop It Down with My Hand by Paul Mason and The Man Who Cannot Die as close behind the Shane Foley story. So all Aussie creators for me today.
Yeah.
Favorite stories? What about you there, Joe?
For me, it would be The Return of the Golden Circle. It's been a bit of a wait when it first was said that this was coming out, but I really enjoyed it. It had some great action scenes. It's Julie hasn't created many stories, but one thing that I've noticed is that her depth of research and what she puts into the stories is quite rich. And so I enjoyed that story. It met my expectations. But yeah, behind that would have to be the Waiting for Dad. I remember talking about that in our monthly reviews, and we all were quite glowing when it came to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I had Steve's right. He had typed in wait, I think, or wait-in, as I was typing in Waiting for Dad as well. So he did get it just in front of me, but I had that as my top story of the year as well. Again, pretty remarkable for a little 8-pager that the Phantom doesn't actually appear in. But yeah, the emotional depth, we went on about it, rightfully so, back when we did our monthly review at the time. I didn't pick a Vietnam story. I just love the way that those Nam stories from Paul Mason keep unfolding and keep unwrapping the whole tale. And as we always say, I look forward to the opportunity to either read those as a trade paperback or pull them all out and read through them once the whole series has been published. I'm glad you gave Return of the Golden Circle a shout out, Germ, because that was a pretty spectacular story in 4 parts in that issue 2000. But for me, actually, it's not. I cannot say it's my favourite story of the year, but certainly the most memorable. The one that is going to keep popping up into my head is Matt Kimes' Man Who Cannot Die. Still can't say I particularly liked it, but I remember it. So it's done its job that way. And certainly the most thought-provoking.
How many times have you read it now, Dan?
Oh, probably 3 or 4, not heaps, but it's more than any other new story this year, I think. Waiting for Dad, I've gone back and read a few times as well.
Yeah. More than just a one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't like it. I think Matt has towed the line and I think he's gone over the line personally. But you're right, it's definitely the most memorable because it makes you think. And I think he toes that line almost perfectly of not disrespecting the character, showing that it's clearly a what if. It's I think he's done a great job in that. Would I want to see that every year? No, but it's along the lines of like the Prodigal Son story where you had one of the Phantom sons becoming a Sing pirate. The Giovanni story, which is where the Phantom has that baby out of wedlock, who thought he was a bloke who turned out to be a girl who almost became the Pope of a Pope in the Catholic Church. It's one of those stories that come along every so often, maybe half a decade in or something. You might not like it, but it's memorable and you will remember that story. So it's a great call out. And look, I don't know if Matt's got any other stories in the pipeline, but Frew has definitely got themselves a writer who can write some thought-provoking stories, and so I'm intrigued to see what else he will bring to the Frew stage.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, as Steve said when he was running through what Frew had done for the year, we probably will always look back at 2025 and go, well, issue 2000 was the issue for the year. I don't think neither of the variant covers for the issue got into our top covers for the year. So it's probably a little bit of a shame that the cover wasn't hit out of the park a little bit better. But that said, I think issue 2000 is a clear standout. And if we were just going, well, what's your favourite issue? We'd probably all say that. So we've changed the criteria slightly. Other than issue 2000, what was your favourite Frew release of the year? Germ, what did you go with?
Well, I want to go the Legacy volumes, which is the 2 volumes with the cover by Glenn Lumsden and Chris Wall, with the little felt borderline and stuff like that. One of the things that I've always kind of debated is would these old comics increase the value of the original comics, or will they decrease? And I actually think that they increase it, because I think what will happen is a lot of fans who never want to buy them before will get these and go, actually, these are really good. I might buy the originals now because I really enjoy these reprints. And so I think it's actually brought and it's the same as these giant size comics that they're reproducing now. I think the original giant size comics are actually worth more and are more highly sought after because they've released the second version of it. And so, I like what they've done with Frew releasing those. I think it's good from a collector's point of view, but I think it's also hopefully bringing a new love for some of the old retro stuff.
Yeah, and you bringing those up reminds me that they're probably they are the only Frew products that have come out in 2025 that I haven't purchased yet. So I do need to go back and make sure I get those before they go out of print. For me, I just went with a standard issue, actually, issue 1997. That was the one that, as Steve said, Waiting for Dad was in. So that certainly helped it get up. Firepower, I thought, was a great story as well, and which was the main story. And the cover, again, while it wasn't mentioned as one of ours at top 3, I think the package for just a standard 36-pager, once a fortnight comic, Marcelo Bay's cover with Firepower as a high-quality story, Waiting for Dad as my favourite story of the year, was enough to get it up to second place behind issue 2000.
Can't argue with that, Dan. Now you've just said all that up. I might have to change mine. But what I said was the annual, because even though if you asked me to name the stories that were in it, I wouldn't be able to. But I did enjoy the monster theme. But I am very much looking forward to this year's annual with the Mandrake stories. I do. I look forward to seeing the annual stories, the annual edition every year. So, yeah.
So quickly, Steve, without getting bogged down before we jump over to Sweden, did the monster theme kind of surprise you? Like, did you enjoy the stories more than what you thought you would?
No. Because I don't mind the old monster movie and that sort of stuff. So it was just a different take. And, there's always, not always, but there's been a number of stories where the Phantom's got some sort of monster thing in it, whether it be Frankenstein or some sort of werewolf, or there's that kind of like Little Red Riding Hood type story, which was republished this year. The name, I think it's Castle of Evil, just reminds me of it. So there's always had those sort of supernatural kind of stories. And I don't mind them. I know there's fans out there who can't stand them, who don't like them. but I don't mind them. And it was a nice breakaway and wrapped up in that little package, then go on to other stuff later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No
I do think
worries.
with the themes of annuals, it's going to be hit and miss. Like, not everybody is going to like the monster annual. I didn't particularly like the theme, but not everybody is going to like reading stories about female fandoms. Not everyone's going to enjoy Western cowboy fandoms. I like the fact that they do themes. I think they're more
Yeah.
hit than miss. Yeah. As Steve said, I'm also looking to this themed Mandrake one, which is coming out. So.
Yeah, probably the theme one that I've liked the least is probably the Eden one, and that's probably because I didn't like all of the Phantom going on holidays one, because they're all basically the same. And it was just reprint stories, where at least, with a lot of these other stories, like the Phantom Goes to War, the female one and all that, a lot of them have got new stories in there, so as well as old classics, so it keeps people happy. All right. So we are going to move over to Sweden. Now, what's actually interesting is Sweden actually released the most comics in 2025. So there's going to be a lot of numbers, so try and keep up, and we'll do our best to make this little bit as interesting as possible. So they had 19 regular issues. So that's their floppy regular issues that come out in newspapers, shops, subscriptions. They had a hardcover collection book. They had a historical hardcover collection book, which has just come out in December 2025. They had 2 trade paperbacks, which was the Christmas one and the Rex themed softcover one. And then they also had 10 digital comics, which collect daily, Sunday stories and classic Team Fantomen stories. So obviously the 10 digital comics is a new introduction from 2024. Now, it's an interesting theme, digital comics. It might be something that we might have to discuss and go down a little bit more in a future podcast. So whoever's taking minutes, please please make note of that, because I think it might be
Send the
something
minutes to chroniclechamber@gmail.com.
I was actually looking at these two, but I think
I've still got my notes from when I was writing down my best ofs.
It might be something that I reckon, so we don't bog this down too much, but it's an interesting trend, don't you think, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we've also seen Lightning Strikes releases them. Comics Kingdom has been releasing them. They're releasing extra issues. Mad Cave does all their news stories, straight away, basically digital as well, same as Fantomen. So yeah, so I want to look at that later. Now, of the regular issues, so we'll move along. They had 7 cover artists. Now, this is a bit of a new trend from the last couple of years, where Henrik used to do basically Henrik Solstrom used to do about 80% of all covers. Now, he's taken a bit of a step back, which is interesting, and I think it's also good, because like Frew, it gives you a nice range of different artists. So they had 7 cover artists. Now, much less than Frew, they had 9 new Team Fantomen stories. Now, this has been hovering around the 9 pretty much for the last 5 years. And again, if it's a multi-part story, that's just 1. There's been 2 new stories from other publishers, which are Bastille stories, and I believe they've got another Bastille story coming up already in 2026. They've got 4 news stories from Frew. And again, that's been hovering. That's been about right. In 2023, they actually had 9 stories, which was a big jump. But the last couple of years has been on average probably about the 3, 4, 5. Then there was something that they brought in, which was interesting. They brought in these comic parody type of stories, which are called Phantom stories, which features like a cartoon style Phantom. Now, I like that bit of an introduction, because it's something different. It's it kind of you have your normal stories, and you have something like that. So it kind of brings in and maybe appeals to a different newspaper audience. Now, in the last couple of years, probably in the last 5 years, there's been a higher increase of new newspaper stories that have never previously been published in Fantomen. Now, I think that's because there was a whole bunch of stories that they never published back in the 80s and 90s, with Ulf Granberg thinking that the stories were too of a average quality to be putting in their magazine. So they've reprinted those stories. And then you add in the fact that the newspaper stories, which we've already talked about, are longer. So like for instance, in 24, there was 5, in 23, there was 8 and 11, and then 10 in 22 and 21. And there was only 2 in 2025. In repeat stories, there's been less repeat stories in 2025, which I think might be appealing for a lot of people. So in 2025, there was 39 stories all up, 41 if you include those parody stories. So that's the most Phantom stories that they have had for 5 years, which is pretty cool. Now, we're not going to worry about the best stories and the best issues. We got Mikkel who's done that for us. I'll quickly shoot and do those, and then we're going to listen to what we can judge a cover, as well as what Mikkel thought was his best cover. So his best story was The Demon's Lantern, which was in issue 6-7. Again, let's keep up the tradition. In 2025, and the best issue that he had was in 1819, which was the Gothenburg issue, which I think will probably be the best issue for most fans of Fantomen. That had lots of Fantomen comics, some extra side stories, and it made a huge impact in the media all throughout Sweden. So that's pretty good. Now, Mikkel's favorite best cover was number 9. You'll see it if you're on YouTube, but if you're not on YouTube, if you're just listening to us, that's where the Phantom's punching someone, which is by Luca Roberta, where he actually goes through the page. So that was a Jason Paulos story. And then 25-26, which is the one where basically it's the modern version again. With what we're talking about with Will Playden, this is the modern version of the Phantom, just swearing the oath. He's got Gurren in the foreground, and he's got his face covered, and he's just about to put on the mask. It's very similar as what Frew readers in 1063 would have seen as well. What about you guys?
Yeah, for me, that 25-26 Henry Johannes, I think I've got that right, Henry Johan. You don't see the cover too often, being that Phantom looking at the mask, about to put the mask on, face in shadow. So that struck me. I guess there's something different as much as anything else. 10-11 was another one that I really liked. Again, a Henry Johan image, and I guess I liked that one just because I mentioned female Phantom stories there before. I do enjoy a female Phantom story, and just looking at the cover and not being able to understand the titles that are on it, it looks like a 20-second Phantom story with Kit Jr. and Heloise being the taking up the mantle and overlooking or just a calm blue at the top. The blue struck me as well against the violence of the red below. And my third favorite was the Christmas album, actually, the Christmas 2025 album. Not like your Frew Christmas album, Jern. There's absolutely no Christmassy about it, but it's a Henrik Sahlstrom image where the Phantom is there's a jungle giant sneaking up behind him and about to donk him on the head, Steve, which I think you'd love. But it looks for all the world like the Phantom knows that he's there and is about to avoid the donk. So those were my 3.
Yeah, I saw that one and just skipped past it, actually. This one's been mentioned already, the issue 25-26 with the swearing the oath or about to don the mask. I put it as number 1. Number 2, I put in number 9, which was the one bursting through the panels that was mentioned before by Mikhail. And for my third favorite, I had number 13. So from memory, if I just go back, which will now be, that's when he's taken off the hat, but he's still wearing the coat, and he's on top of, I think, a rooftop with a gun pointed. Simple, but I thought it was quite effective. Also want to put a bit of a shout out to issue number 1819, which was, there's nothing really I just really like the way that cover was done, and he's holding fish for some reason, which I thought I had a chuckle. So if I go and read the story, there's probably a reason why he's holding a fish in his hand.
There is.
But that was just a chuckle.
Yeah,
Looking
so
very serious and holding
I
a
think
bundle of
drugs
fish.
were being smuggled in the fish
that
from
could be
memory.
it. Yeah.
Inside a fish.
Yeah, that's the Gothenburg story that got a lot of good press and stuff like that. For me, we've already mentioned 25, 26. I wouldn't be surprised if that actually becomes, if that's in the top 3 for the voting for the Fantomen, which will be out in probably the next couple of weeks, I would say. Maybe even by the time this comes out, the voting will probably be open for that one.
Well, all 4 of us have mentioned 25, 26, so that's a good sign for it.
A very good sign. Either that or we've jinxed it. The other one's the Prince Rex one. I just like the nice shading of the characters in the background. And then the other one is number 8 as well, which is by Raphael Ruiz, which has just got, I don't know, it's just got that different style, and I like the different layers that he has created with it. And again, it's the comic book theme one that was done by Peter Anderson and Jason Paulos by Frew a couple of years ago. Now, obviously, we made mention of Mikkel. Now, so we thank him for that. Now, we are still looking for a week or a fortnightly reviewer. So if there's anyone out there that is interested, please get in touch with us because we would love to be able to add the review of these comics to our schedule, even if it's just the regular comics instead of all the specials. And obviously, you've got the monthly digital ones as well. But we would love to be able to have a reviewer. So even if you can just do it a month and you are able to review 1 or 2 comics at a time or something like that, please get in touch with us. If you're out there and you don't buy them all or anything like that, get in touch with us and see what we can sort out for you.
One of the other, just before we move on, Jim, the other thing that I really liked about the 25-26 issue is Garan on the front cover. You don't often see Garan, be really foregrounded like that, and just that whole moment between them. It's not just the Phantom, about to put on the mask and take on the mantle. It's the support that he's getting from Garan, with, of course, the fantastic image of the skull in the background. So,
yeah, well said.
Yeah. Rightio. Moving over to the USA. Lots of news has been coming out of USA recently, but we're just going to focus on the comics. We've got Hermes Press. They released 2 issues this year, and they were the 2 collections of the daily stories. And one was released in February and one released in May. Now, there are continuous rumors that the Art of the Phantom and the coloring in book will be coming out, but we'll see. Now, Mad Cave Studios, they've released a number of issues this year. So they've released 9 issues. 5 of them have been the Defenders of the Earth Series 1. There's been 1 Defenders of the Earth Series 2, and there's been 3, we'll say regular, but Phantom issues. There's been 2 trade paperbacks and 28 different cover designs. 9 issues. Let's just let that sink in. 9 issues, 28 different covers. And that's not including the covers reused for the trade paperbacks. Can you fit 28? What's that? 28 divided by 4? 7? Yeah, 4 rows of 7 up on the screen.
In America, if an American publisher, if anyone submits a cover design to them, it gets published as a variant somewhere. So,
but yeah, look, we do joke about that, but it's I think I've got every single one of them.
Of course you do.
I think there's one that I don't have. Yeah, there's one I don't have at the moment, and that's the Mad Cave store exclusive one. I think I've tracked down a copy of it, but it hasn't arrived yet. So yeah. And look, I enjoy these comics so much. This is going to sound like a bragger, but I'm actually in the process of purchasing my 2nd original cover art from Mad Cave, released in 2025. Like the original artwork. So I've really enjoyed
what they're doing.
Yeah, I've enjoyed seeing some of these comics coming out. And yeah, look, it is a bit of a free for all and stuff like that. But people are buying them. People are excited by the series. So yeah, I think it's good.
And something else that's good and exciting is it's the first time in, well, we'll say about 10 years that we've received more than one comic a month on average in the USA.
Yeah.
I think that is good because now I've said it before on the podcast and I'll say it again and maybe someone will listen to me. For the Phantom to become popular, we need regular comics printed in USA and India because they, out of the main fan groups in the world, they're the largest population ones, and Brazil's not far behind as well. So, Frew will keep selling out, our 10 to 15,000 issues or whatever we do a year, but we need the US and India to pick up the slack as well.
Well, yes. Now, just like we did with our Scandinavian friends, we'll do the covers, our favorite covers from the US. So Scott, who's our US correspondent, he's put a three-way tie in for those Natasha Bustos variants. Sure, they're up on the screen now. Dan, what about you?
They're the cartoon style ones.
Oh, they are. I'm in two minds about those.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like them, but I don't like it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, let's spend a minute on that. What do you like about them, but what don't you like about it? What are you conflicted about? Because
the same thing. What I like about it is also what I don't like about it. I like the cartoony nature of it, but I don't want that on the cover and what's trying to sell the cover. I think they will sell the cover for a younger, like for kids. I reckon that's a great way of selling the cover. But for a 45-year-old man, that's not selling me the cover. But I like the cover. But I like the art.
Interesting. That's good.
I hear what you're saying, Steve. I'm very similar. I like the fact that there's such a variety of covers, and that's the advantage, I suppose, of having so many variants. That you have, they haven't just got the same artist reproducing 5 different interpretations of his or her take of the Phantom. There is genuinely a difference in styles across the variants, so that excites me. And like what you said there, I suppose those are going to appeal to different audiences. The kids who might pick up that cartoony style cover, are they going to be surprised by the story that they read inside, and maybe it's a little bit too off-putting? I don't know, but and I also don't know how the comic book stores in the US are working. Do they have all of those variants up on the shelf for you to look at and pick your favorite, or like and obviously we're on the other side of the world, my comic book store gets in a few of the main cover and has that up, and the variants are available for order for the nuffies like me who or Germ apparently, who want one of everything. Now, I'm not getting one of everything. I'm getting what he can get, and sometimes I'm surprised by how much is in the box at the comic book store when I get there. But I guess the key thing is that I like the variety of the variants, which is what they're for, I suppose.
So what are your favourites, Dan, while you're talking?
Well, I went with my favourite was 1B, variant 1, issue 1, variant B, which was a Canaan white cover. And then 1A was probably second place for me. Freddie Williams the second. His take. So both of those, I think, were probably pretty traditional, sort of American covers, if you like. But I just like the way that they, both of those, the how dynamic the images are, but also, and I think it's the Freddie Williams one from memory, also reminds you that actually purple can be an appropriate camouflage color if it's in the right shadow. So that's often a criticism. And I guess in terms of variety, my third, I went with Defenders of the Earth issue 7 variant B, the George Djokovic cover. I really love the way he's reinterpreting the Galoob style story of toys and the cards, and I loved his take on the original toys. Now he's going, well, what if and 7B is the female Phantom? What if there was a female Phantom Galoob toy back in 1985 or whatever it was, and this is what it would look like, and I really loved that.
Yeah, it was a great idea for variant covers.
Yep. So I'm pretty close to you there, Dan, with my choices. I went for 1B, the cane and white one, and I went with 3B. I didn't check who the artist was on that, but it's probably the same person because it's a very similar style. And I went for the Defenders of the Earth. I just went for all the Galoob covers. I thought that was a fantastic idea. And yeah, seeing the female Phantom one caught my eye, and I wasn't going to pick between them. I thought that was a great idea. And so I just went Galoob covers.
Cool.
So 1A and 1B were by Cane and White. So yeah.
1B and 3B I went for.
Sorry. So I went Defenders of the Earth Series 1, which is 5A, which is one of the two Phantoms. So you've got Kurt in the trees about to jump the other Phantom. I went one of the Natasha Bustos variants in 2C, which is where he's punching the pirate. I just, again, I like, a lot like you, it's not exactly something that I'm always a huge fan of, but just, seeing the Phantom punching a bad guy, I don't know. And it's in a style that reminds me a little bit of Wilson McCoy. So I kind of like that. And then the other one was 1B, which is what we've discussed as well. So yeah. Pretty. I was impressed with some of the covers.
Yeah. So good work, Mad Cave and United States in there.
Absolutely.
Phantom Publishing. Right. What about India, Dan?
Yeah, so as Jerm said, India is probably the other big market that we need to be aware of. Unlike America, India seems to have put the handbrake on a little bit. Not as many issues coming out of India in 2025 as we've seen previously. Regal only produced one issue of its English series and nothing since April. So have they stopped altogether or not? We're not sure. Swej is our man on the ground, and he's going to be reporting on that soon. So hopefully it's some good news and there's just a pause, not a stop from Regal. Shakti was probably they were the most prolific Phantom publishers in India through 25. They had 6 issues through that 12-month period, an increase on the 3 that they had in 2024. They had 4 different cover artists, including Lou Manor from the United States. In terms of the stories that they produced, 2 Cybarrier stories, 1 Wilson McCoy story, so obviously all Lee Fawkes. And that's the first time that one of the Wilson McCoy stories have featured in a Shakti issue, and 3 more modern newspaper stories with Tony DePaul as the author there. I guess if you're an Indian fan, you can't necessarily, as we've just said with Regal, big gaps there. If you're an Indian fan, you can't necessarily rely on the regularity of your comic. There was a 5-month gap between issue 16 and 17. And then for whatever reason, for issue 18, there was not just the English language version, but there was a Bengal variant as well. And I think we'll talk about that issue once we get to the covers because it was pretty striking. And issue 19 came out with in Hindi as well. So just not the consistency and regularity that we probably are fortunate enough to have with Frew in Australia. There were 2 other publishers as well. So V Comics released an issue back in January, and Muthu Comics had 1 issue in August. And the last time they'd released a comic was 2023. So again, a bit all over the shop there. As I said at the outset, dramatically fewer comics released than previous years. But apparently Regal will be back to 2026, so we hope so. And as I said, we'll just hope that Swage can confirm something there. In terms of the covers, actually, I haven't read this properly since I filled out my section. Abhishek Biswar was the artist for Shakti number 18, which I chose as my favourite cover of all of those. Steve?
I went for Shakti number 18, the Abhishek Biswar cover. What about you, Jam?
Or at the risk of being different, I went the same. But so for me, I chose it because I love some of the action and stuff like that. But that very similar point of what we said about the Frew Christmas album and the Lauren Marshall it was that moment, that piece between all the chaos, between the action, that drew me in. And the one-on-one time, and we're all parents, and we all know that having that one-on-one time with one of your children while juggling the other child and stuff like that is important. And it's just, I see the Phantom spending time with Rex, imparting wisdom on him, and that will be, one of those quality moments, and that Rex would appreciate. And I just really enjoyed the atmosphere and the sense of love and that other side of the Phantom.
Why did you pick it, Steve?
For exactly the same reasons as Jerm just said. Yeah, not often that I'll agree with everything that Jerm said, but I agreed with everything he just said. I was just thinking, what can I add to that? Nothing.
It's different. It stands out. It's not that action cover. And I think when you go back and look at a year's worth of covers, you find that 95% of any one publisher are punching bad guys, jumping through walls, shooting guns, or drawing your weapons, or whatever it might be, an action scene, which we love. But I think the reason this stood out to me, and maybe Lauren Marshall's earlier as well, is it's that different moment, like Jerm said, that calm inside the storm. And I guess as to why all three of us picked it up, maybe you can tell that all three of us are fathers, and it really stands out as a fatherhood, really nice dad moment.
Well said. All right, so we're going to shoot over to Germany. Now, Germany is a bit of a sleeping giant with what they create with Phantom stories. So there's been 4 Phantom series published in 2025 in Germany. Only Sweden has produced more series in 2025 than what Germany has. And that's not including Austria as well. Now, all the reviews are on our website. Christian does an amazing job keeping up with everything. He's always messaging me, oh, another series. Oh, so he does a great job. So with Zubistan, with their regular issue, there was 6 regular issues. It's a mixture of newspaper and other stories, like you've got 1 from Herms, 1 from Moonstone, 7 from newspapers, 8 from Charlton, 4 from DC. Now, the interesting thing, which is a bit of a new trend for 2025, is that all 6 covers have been reused covers with no new covers. So I wonder maybe if they produce more comics, that might be why they're not producing more original new covers. They're saving their money on. So it's an interesting trade-off. I'm not sure if that's something I would do, but let's get the guys from Zubistan on and we can explore that a little bit further. Now, they've also got 6 special issues, and in that, 15 newspaper stories are in there. So that's they're getting a lot of different types of stories. I'd like to see maybe more Team Fantomen stories, because I think the Germans readers will probably really enjoy some of that stuff. Where are we? Yeah, and then in Wick, which is the German publisher, now they've published 2 regular issues. There was a bit of delay with the final 4 issues. The final 2 issues will be printed in 2026. ECR had 10 regular issues. Now, most of these stories, these are all the newspaper stories. So a lot of them are kind of like the later Wilson McCoy and the early Cy Barry stories. Most of these stories have never before been published in Germany. So not only are they getting all the modern stuff published in the 80s and 90s, they're getting all their stuff published in the 50s and 60s. So it's great. Now, ECR German covers, I think that they are AI covers. There was a bit of an outcry at the start. There hasn't been as much of an outcry. So I wonder if it's just because we've gotten used to it, or whether the actual quality of the AI covers are maybe a little bit better. Again, I don't really know. Maybe that might be a discussion for another podcast as well. Now, Art 9, which is from Austria, but they do release to the German public, German market. So we're going to lump them in with these guys. They produced 3 issues, which are all of the newspaper stories. They started off with the Singh Brotherhood, and they're basically going chronological order, like Herms, up through. So they've produced 6 stories in the 3 issues so far. And again, all of this stuff has been reviewed by Christian. Now, Christian's best story that he's read in the issues published in 2025 is the Sing Brotherhood story, which, you know, has been voted twice as the best story published by Team Fantomen as well. So it's not really a surprise. His best issue is also the Art 9 as well. So he's really loving getting a reprint of those type of issues. From a best cover, he actually likes ECR 92, which is one of the suggested AI type of covers, which is got Phantom in the background with a striking cover of Hero running throughout it as well. Dan and Steve, what do you guys think about some of the best covers?
Yeah, I was not across the thought that perhaps some of the ECR covers were AI. I did think it was unusual that the cover artist is listed as Andy in the Fandom Wiki. I guess that's how they're referred to in the books, or however the Fandom Wiki knows that to attribute it to someone called Andy. I didn't think that Andy was a big enough artist to be going around being known by just his first name or her first name, but that might explain it. It's interesting because I was going to just acknowledge I didn't pick an ECR book as one of my favourites, but just the variety of covers, and maybe that's why too, if they are AI. No, my favourite one was Timo Were's production for Zubistan Special #1. Just again, I guess a very dynamic image, but also just the way it's been broken up into almost panels as a breakout. If I could pick a German cover to have as a poster on the wall, that would absolutely be it. And that's often a bit of a measuring stick for myself as well.
Yeah, no, that's the only, putting aside ECR, the ECR covers, that's the only original one that hasn't been published before.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's why my eye was drawn to it as well. And we see this in a lot of other countries, that there's a lot of reproduced covers, like reproduced art. And so I was pretty much passing over that and trying to find what was original, and the Zobastone Special #1 very much stood out to me. I thought that the ECR covers, I thought they were pretty messy on the whole. I thought some of them might have been like a repro, like what does it say, 128. There looks like, you know, a Cy Barry story or something. No, not Cy Barry, something from the past. I remember I've seen that before.
Antonio Lemos.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Background of one of it's the back cover.
It's a Frew cover.
Yeah.
But then there's others where, like 97, I've had to look twice. Oh no, the Phantom's right there in the middle of the page, but I couldn't see it. It was all messy. But I really like the way that he's got Mr. Walker in the jungle in 96. But if you're telling me that all these covers are AI generated, then that just wipes them off the board, and I don't care if they're good, wipe them off.
Yeah.
I won't put them on a pedestal. I won't say that they're good. If they are AI, and if a publishing company is putting out AI artwork rather than getting a human to create it, whether it be digitally or by hand, then no, off.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. So the other one that I probably like is probably Wick #9. I like, and so Wick have been published. They've published 12, and then Zubistan for their specials are publishing these type of covers as well, which are actually covers by, there's a Turkish guy that lives in Germany. I can't remember his name at the top of my head. I apologize. But they were originally released in Turkey, and they've been reused here as well. So yeah, look, I would like to see some more original covers coming out from Germany, but you can't fault on the overall that they are producing some great stuff, and there's a bit of an upswell of readers from Germany, which again I think is which is good to see.
Absolutely. It's also, it might be worth noting, and I think now might be the time to do it looking ahead. just that with some of the artists that we've nominated as favoured artists from some of the other countries, there's a little bit of a trend that a lot of them, I think, might have had their first ever fandom cover published by Frew. Canaan White, I think his first fandom cover was on an annual for Frew.
Yep.
I think that Freddie Williams. Yep. Freddie Williams, number 2, was I think the first trade paperback for Frew. Might have been his first fandom cover, I think. The second trade paperback, was it? And Timo Wertz, we've just mentioned with the Zubastan special as well. I reckon his first fandom cover was for Frew. So perhaps Frew and Glenn Ford in particular should get some credit for perhaps discovering these fandom artists and maybe sparking something in them or making them known to other publishers. But anyway, just a little shout out for Glenn there, I think. All right. So we thought we'd go around the rest of the world as well. We've talked about some big publishers and countries that are producing lots of issues, whether it's because of a company like Fantomen or a title, I should say, like Fantomen or a company like Frew, where there are obviously in Germany and India, there's multiple publishers all producing a few comics each. The rest of the countries around the world, as we go around, are smaller production lines, you might say, so sort of throwing them all in together, even though probably the only thing they've got in common is they produce a few fandom comics.
So in Norway, there are 3 regular issues, and in those 3 issues, there are 17 Fantomen stories that had never been published in Norway before. Over in Finland, they released 1 softcover album. In Brazil, they released 4 omnibus issues. They were over 400 pages each and all in black and white. And 1 volume was Fred Fredericks and Keith Williams drawn stories. 2 volumes were Wilson McCoy and 1 volume was Cy Barry. Brazil also released 3 hardcover albums, which were 150 to 250 pages of full color. There were the Marvel stories, the 2040 and the Glenn Lumsden stories, as well as Hermes Press Salvaludo stories, which was the second release, and the Don Newton with Pendant. Then in Spain, there was 1 daily reprint, and there was a hardcover. There's been nothing since May 2025, and before that was January 2024. So that's a fair bit of space between drinks over there in Spain. Over in Greece, they released 1 trade paperback, but nothing since June 2025. In Denmark, they released 2 hardcover collections. They were over 120 pages each, with a mixture of Charlton newspaper and Frew created stories. Good to see Frew going around the world. Ireland, they released 1 annual, 1
for those who came in late.
For those who came in late issue. I was looking at that. I thought, what the heck is that? And 12 digital
how old
comics.
You are. You're struggling with all the acronyms of the youth. These
days. Was it roll ROFL? Roll on the floor laughing, whatever it is.
It's hard to know it's an acronym when it's all written in lowercase.
Betwilkzil. I thought, what the heck is a Fetwickle? It's a count. But they also released 12 digital comics, if I didn't mention that before. No comics were published in Italy, Hungary, or France, even though they did produce comics in 2024. Okay, so what were our favourites? Dan, what was your best cover from those, we'll say, other countries?
Yeah, so I went around the traps a little bit, and one's probably a little unusual, I suppose. But from Finland, I liked the softcover Prince Rex special from their Musta Namio series, Barankarnian Valas, which I guess means Prince Rex special in Finnish. But Luca Urberta, he's another Fantom artist who I want to say was had his first. Well, certainly Frew had published his stories, but I guess he might have been a Fantomen artist first. My second favourite was a regular artist in our best ofs, but probably hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's Henrik Sahlström for the Jean Lafayette cover on Fantomet number 3 of 2025 from Norway. And then I guess there's something a little bit different. It's been a long time since Wilson McCoy got a shout out for a cover, if not ever, because I don't think there were many comic books being published with original artwork on the front of it. But Spain's Dolmen editions, El Hombre El Mascarado, number 18, had a repro of Wilson McCoy on the front cover. And as Steve has noticed, as observed earlier, there are a lot of similarities, images that are reproduced and that sort of stuff around these other countries, which is not a criticism. They've got to get a cover on in a expedient and a cost-effective sort of a way. But to get a Wilson McCoy panel and put it on the cover, no, I enjoyed that one. So that was why I picked it.
Yeah, and with a lot of these repros, I've kind of skipped over those. So the only one that really stood out to me was Islands number 6 and 1, which are the same piece of art. So I went with that one because it didn't look like it was a reproduction.
Yeah, that's by Joel Folder, who we've got a interview with on our website as well. A comic creator from Malta who grew up on a staple of a lot of the Sparta, Fratelli Sparta stories. So yeah, a good shout out for him. He also did the annual cover for the annual as well. So for me, I really like that one of the Phantom outside the skull, what do you call it? Skull cave as well.
Cave?
Other ones, yeah, the other ones that got my attention was the Denmark, the second one by Fantomen, which is, I wasn't a huge fan of the story, the Queen Saba story, but I do like that cover. And then also the Don Newton one that was from Brazil. But again, as you made mention, it is another reproduction.
Right. Dan, what about the totals? What was the grand totals for these different countries?
That is a much better way of introducing the other person than my effort from the last section. Good work. So if we go around the entire globe for 2025, there were fewer countries, as Steve alluded to there. 12 different countries around the world produced a Phantom comics in 2025. So last year there was 16, and that was the highest since the 1990s, but with a few countries not going around again this year, dropped back to 12, which is still more than we had in 2023. So it is, what do they say? Improvement is not linear. It's ups and downs, but as long as the line's trending in the right direction, and at the moment it seems to be. Something that is linear is the sheer growth of the number of comics. And so, for instance, with 13 books coming out of the United States this year, there's going to be that uptick. Germany has also contributed a lot more. So even though our regular publishers from Sweden and Australia have sort of held the line in terms of those 30-odd books, nearly 30 from Germany, 13 from America, 21 from America, I should have said, and then around the grounds. Including the digital comics, there is 142 new issues that have come out in 2025. So that's a good 30 more than last year, which was a good 40 more than if we go back to 2020. So that line of improvement is going well. So if you're a Phantom fan, there's never been more issues to read. And in terms of brand new stories, so not just reprints of old stories, 31 brand new stories from around the world this year, or 2025, which is fantastic. Pretty similar to where we were in 23 and 22. Last year, 2024, there was a bit of a dip. There was only 22 new stories. But if we can keep new stories from around the world up above that 30 per year, then I think as fans, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, so 142 comics, that's almost 3 a week.
And Germ has all but one of them.
Nah, I've struggled to get every single one. It's actually really hard to be able to buy more. So yeah, look, it's a good problem to have. I remember when it was a lot easier, when you had basically Sweden, Norway, and Australia, and that was it. So yeah, so it's a good problem to have. Now, what we're going to do
build a new wing on you need to build a new wing onto your house there, Jam, to store it all, wouldn't you?
An east wing style ballroom for the space he's going to need.
Funny, we have said that. We will be starting the renovation soon, which will be a second story, which I'll be shoving the two of the girls up, and I'll be taking over one of their rooms, so I get 2 Phantom rooms. Well, a study and a Phantom room, but let's be honest, it's going to be 2 Phantom rooms. So that's, as you said, Dan, that's the totals. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss our other favorites. So, for instance, we're going to be looking at merchandise, writers, story artists, and all that other type of stuff, our moments, and then we're going to look in the future as well. So we're going to start off with the best three of our writers. So this is Team Fantomen writers, Frew writers, the newspaper strip writer, or the Comics Kingdom writers, and stuff like that. So for me, I've got Tony DePaul. Look, I still think he's probably the best rider we've got, but I don't think 2025 was probably his best year. But he does make me think with where we're going with the Phantom, so I do have to give him credit for that. The other one is David Bishop, especially with his 2022 Phantom Saga stories. I think that's a huge responsibility for him, because I think that series is on a bit of a knife edge. It's been good. It was something nice and new and fresh, but the 21st Phantom is still missing, and he has to navigate what's happening with Sandal Singh's son. And I think there's a few things where I think it's going to be a delicate balance as he takes off the mantle with Closer and Murphy. And then lastly, Julia Dittrich with the Golden Circle. That was a highlight for me from a pure story writing point of view. What about you guys?
Yeah, well, obviously, I've just talked about how many different comics and news stories and stuff there are around the world. I'm ignorant and can only speak English, so I'm limited to the stories and the authors that have only been published in English. For me, I've still got Tony DePaul for the reasons that you said as well, Germ. I probably would agree that there's been better years of newspaper stories or Comics Kingdom stories, but I think the overall arch is still there. So Tony DePaul, best writer for me, and then I'm probably a bit patriotic. I love my Frew comics and I love my Australian authors. Paul Mason continues to go well with not just the NARM stories, but the other stories that he's contributing now as well. Matt Kime, I've already talked about the Man Who Cannot Die story, but also, what was the other one he did? I can't remember off the top of my head, but Matt Kime, for the reasons we talked about earlier. I haven't put it in the notes. I know I've already got my 3 out of the 3, but Shane Foley, I can't leave out Shane Foley with Waiting for Dad. That's just a classic. And I've got Julie Dittrich in there as well, but you've already mentioned her.
For me, it was really hard to pick, and I didn't put Tony DePaul for probably the first time in my top 2. I put him in my equal third, I think. It's not that I didn't enjoy his stories. I am, but I was trying to figure out a way. I didn't want to pick like Matt Kime on the basis of one story, on the basis of the Man Who Cannot Die story. Great story, great one-off. Really enjoyed it. But it was one story. Same with Shane Foley. I really, really enjoyed that Waiting for Dad story. Favorite story of the year. But did I really like all his other stuff? And I don't really like all his other stuff. I think something was good. I think Waiting for Dad was a standout, but I couldn't put him as in my top 3 of authors. But someone who I consistently like, and I've said it probably every year, is Paul Mason. I think the stories, the NARM stories, and every other story that he's been doing, the Fury stories that he's doing with Amanda, everything else, knocks it out of the park every time. Just like Dan, I'm limited pretty much to the Frew stories. I was going through Phantom Wiki to see what had actually been produced, and looking at the stories, and I saw David Bishop's name come up a few times on the stories that I enjoyed. So I put David Bishop as my number 2. And like I said, a lot of people in third place, including Tony DePaul. The ones who did the
you're talking about the Singh Brotherhood,
kind of link
the
into
Devil's
it.
Brotherhood,
Yeah.
the Devil's Brotherhood story.
That's it. Yeah. So that the author there, I did have the name up earlier, but then I didn't write it down. There was a lot of people who I put in third place, but Paul and David I think, were my top two.
Then we're going to shoot over to the best story artist. It's interesting we haven't included any of the US stuff yet. So I wonder if that's because we're being too focused on Australia, or whether we're maybe waiting for a couple of issues before we actually, include it in our story. So it'll be interesting if some of their stories and their artwork and stuff like that comes out in 2026. So for the best story artist general, Stephen, you're on a bit of a roll. Why don't you give us some of your three favorite?
Well, this one I was able to knock it down to three. I went with Paul Mason, Mike Manley, and Janice Auden as my top three.
Dan?
I can't go past Jeff Weigel as my favourite story artist. His work on the Sundays, I think we might have said last podcast, Germ, that he's only a few number of years perhaps of being escalating himself into the upper echelon of all-time Phantom artists, and his work this year is certainly contributed to that. So for me, I've probably got Jeff Weigel first and Daylight second, to be honest. And then third, probably Wendell Cavalcanti. I really enjoyed his work in Return to the Golden Circle. So that was good. And again, I guess the pantheon of Frew artists that Steve mentioned there as well. It's interesting what you say about the American artists. It's a different style of art, I think, the American artwork that I probably haven't adjusted to yet. So I probably need to spend a bit more time reading those and going back over them and appreciating the artwork a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Now, we will be doing talking about the American artwork and stuff like that. When the 2040 series reaches the 20 episodes, we will do a podcast wrapping up that with Scott, with the three of us and Scott. And then I wouldn't mind, maybe doing a bit of a podcast with some of the regular issues and stuff like that as well. So where we can focus more on those from, we can discuss with an American and a bunch of Australians and kind of dig into that as well. So we will be doing a bit more of that in 2026. Now, you made mention of Jeff Weigel and Wendell Cavalcanti. They're probably two of my favourites. And the other one, which is one that Stephen's also made mention, which is Janice Auden as well. In my opinion, Janice Auden and then Jeff are probably the top two story artists at the moment from a whole fandom point of view. I just really like their style. I think their storytelling is really good. And then I really enjoyed what Wendell did with the Golden Circle as well.
Well, yeah. Moving on to best merchandise in 2025. Now, there was a number of different items that became available this year. Looking at the licensed stuff, we've got the Shakti Comics calendar. We've got the Magical clothing range and a mouse pad and 5 items of clothing, the Comic Con Cruise patch set, the Shakti Comic Con print, the Phantom video game, of course, the Saturday Morning Cards, the Saturday Morning Cards shirt, the Frew Folio number 10, the Supernova pin, Hero's Journey Workshop Phantom movie replica ring set. So there's a number of licensed stuff that's come out this year. Germ, do you have a favourite out of all that?
Oh, there's another one which I didn't include in the writing, but it was actually on the in the images, and that was the Aristocat Gaming Phantom slot machine. Yeah. And what's actually interesting, which I've only just found out, which I haven't even written the article yet, is that to promote that, they actually released the Phantom figurine, which was the Heroes Boss Fight Studios set, and they put a new backing board on it. So there's something that we haven't even written the article for as well. So yeah. But
every completist in the world has just gone, hello.
There's been some key releases like the Saturday Morning Cards and the video game, but there hasn't really been many. The volume's not there, if that kind of makes sense. So for me, it's probably the Saturday Morning Cards. That I've enjoyed the cards. I've got all of the cards except I've got like a gold one, and I've got all of the normal ones except one. And, I'm trying to hunt that down and stuff like that. So it's been something that I've enjoyed the purchase, the trading of, seeing fans from around the world, seeing collectors from other genres getting into it as well. So yeah, for me, it's the Saturday morning cards.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm probably much the same. Very similar. Along as you look down that list, I was like, well, okay, yes, I've got to look for my favourite. What have I actually purchased myself this year? And the list is slim. The Saturday morning cards, video games, the Saturday morning cards shirt, and the Frew folio number 10. That's it from the whole list that I've been able to get my hands on. A lot of it's overseas stuff and harder to get, obviously, but probably not something that I've gone, I really need to chase that. So look, for me, the video game's got to be the big one, right? In terms of the way it's continued to improve with the patches that have been available, and the physical copies starting to become available at the end of this year. I know it did also get released at the end of 24, so we sort of sneak it into 25, but the Saturday morning cards, for all the reason that you said there as well, Germ, I quite openly, I was a bit skeptical on them when word first started to get out, and I couldn't get my head around exactly what they were or what it meant and how it would operate. But I have become quite a fan to the point where I'm wearing the Saturday morning cards shirt right now. So that's my fandom shirt of choice for this pod.
I'm very much in the same vein as Dan there. I've got 2 copies of the video game, one for the Switch and one for the Xbox. I've clocked it on the Switch a couple of times now, and I've only just started playing it on the Xbox. The bugs were worked out with the Switch, because we know Ash, in communication with him. If I found something, I'll send him a message. Oh, this happened, or this, something like this happened, and pretty soon those bugs were sorted. I did notice a couple of bugs when I started playing the Xbox one, but hopefully they've sorted that out, and when I get a chance, I'll sit down and play it again. So the video game was my number 1, and my number 2 is just like Dan. It's become my shirt of choice now for the podcast, the Saturday morning card T-shirt. Really like this T-shirt. Treat it with absolute care to make sure it remains vibrant and in good condition.
So, excellent condition. Here's a question for you. When you say it has to remain vibrant and in good condition, do you wash it? Do you wear it, or just wear it for the podcast?
I wear it for the podcast. So far, I might wear it to a Comic-Con or something in the future, but at the moment, I'm only wearing it on the podcast. I got changed. There's my shirt that I was wearing before.
Well, we're doing exactly the same, Steve. I can't reach my shirt. It's over there, but I'm also just wearing this for the pod. I should have had that same approach to my Happy Fantoming shirt, because I noticed that Germs is still in great condition. Mine's not even worth wearing as a pajama top anymore. I've worn it to death. So we need to perhaps add to that list of merch for next year. Won't be licensed, but maybe we need another Happy Fantoming shirt.
Yeah, we did a shout out to the fan. I'm not sure I will mention his name, but he wore his Happy Fantoming shirt to the gym, and he got a comment, nice shirt, from someone a lot younger and prettier. So he was rather chuffed by that. I never thought that it would become a chick magnet, but there you go.
I have to put it into my gym rotation.
All right. So we're obviously in a very privileged position, being part of Chronicle Chamber and doing what we do and talking to the people we talk to through 2025, and I find it hard to remember that, what did we do between the 1st of January and the 31st of December? But through 2025, what would you say would be your favourite moment of being part of the Chronicle Chamber group? There's obviously lots of great things that we do.
It's interesting you say that, because I think not only it's hard to reflect, and I think partly is that because we're not trying to boost our own egos here. We're doing it as a service, in a sense that we're fans and we like to do this. We like to bring it to fans. We like to highlight what other people are doing and stuff like that. So to be able to take 5 minutes out and become egotistical is probably something that's not really in our repertoire. But for me, doing the live breaking of the Saturday morning cards on Facebook with, I did it with two other guys from Perth. We set up a little studio. We, had it over the top and we were talking about it. And I think we did it for about 30 minutes. That was something that I've never done before. And then to be able to, I guess, to be able to bring that. And I think a lot of Australians struggled, and you made mention of this, Dan. A lot of Australians struggle getting their head around this collecting cards, exclusive cards concept. And I think because of what we were able to do with not only the podcast, but with the live breaking and to be able to see him in the flesh and doing that, I think we have actually been able to help the older fans, even older than you, Dan, being able to get excited and to be able to understand this concept. And because of that, I think, yeah, that's probably been my favoriteest moment is being a vocal point for SMC and to be able to help sell the concept for some fans.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that as well. The whole journey, I suppose, to the guy that I've gone on with Saturday morning cards. This time last year, I was scratching my head and going, "Well, why would anybody do that?" Explain that to me again, and I appreciate the fact that you recognise there might be older fans than me out in the community.
Not many, but yeah.
The odd one or two. And I guess that struck me. That podcast struck me. I was intrigued enough that it's the only one. It remains the only one I've ever recorded from work. Usually I do get back into the Skull Cave and manage to record from here. But just the timing of talking to Dan from Saturday Morning Cards and what worked for him, I was at work, so I recorded it from there. And just his enthusiasm and excitement in that podcast, and understanding what it was. Fortunately, I was in a position to not just help sell the concept to fans through the podcast and what we do at Chronicle Chamber, but literally import and sell some of the cards and on-sell some of the cards. Now, we're an hour and a half into the pod, maybe a little bit more. There's no way my wife is listening to this, so I can reveal to you guys I'm still in the hole financially for doing that. It's certainly not something that's been extremely profitable, but the joy, the profit in it is being actually able to get cards that to people who wouldn't otherwise have got them, and the correspondence back going, "Wow, I actually really love these. Can you get some more next time?" Lots of enthusiasm for a volume 2 should that come out. It is really gratifying. So yeah, the journey from what even is this concept to, okay, I'm going to financially invest in this and help other people get a hold of these really high quality products has been pretty exciting. And if I get a shirt to wear on the pod out of it, then happy days.
Very good. Once again, the Saturday Morning Card podcast was great, and his enthusiasm was absolutely infectious. Like, Dan just seemed like a really top bloke. But the other thing is the convos and the conversations that happen off air as we prepare for the pod or if we prepare for articles. As the different group chats we got going on with the people overseas. I just really enjoy those. I was going to put in Sammy J, but that's this year, so I have to make sure I remember that for next year.
That's right.
The next wrap up.
That was me too.
It is hard sometimes to look back over the whole year. So good luck in trying to remember that one. We've just looked from an egotistical point of view, from a Chronicle Chamber point of view. We're almost finished, so please bear with us. Now we're looking at as an overall reflection on 2025. Now, this can be from a worldwide point of view, a general point of view. It can be just on your country of choice. Now, we've got Scott and Christian who are going to give us from their country point of view. So, Scott, from a US standpoint, 2025 has been phenomenal. We didn't get that new Moonstone series, but we're in a Phantom Renaissance here with a new Phantom series and Defenders of the Earth series. So which we've talked about as well previously. So getting all of those comics from the US has been great. And Christian, again, from a Germany point of view, made mention that there's a huge amount of comics being released. And he was actually wondering, has it reached capacity or is there still more capacity? And if we do reach a capacity, could that cause not enough comics to be sold and then publishers having to cancel the magazines? So Christians, maybe it's a very interesting point is maybe, is there too much? And then from myself,
I think it's a really valid question for Germany because there's five, 6 different publishers. Is that too many big fish in the pond? Maybe I'd hate to think that they all decide to cancel it. Maybe one or two end up owning the market. I guess that's probably the hope.
Yeah, I think what does help is that majority of them are targeting different things. So you've got Art9, which is producing, the Ray Moore stories at the moment going upwards. Then you've got Zebastans that are doing the more modern stuff. You've got Wick, who will be ending in 2026, are just reprinting Bastille comics. So they've kind of all created their niche. So I think that does help. But I think, Zeberstan's definitely got the foothold at the moment. From my point of view, before we shoot over to you guys, is the increase of digital comics. I really think that's interesting to be able to explore. That was a huge overall reflection on 2025. I remember there was a message from the publisher in a Frew comic where one of them actually talked about whether they will be selling their comics digitally issue by issue rather than doing it a year later as well. So that's a question that Frew's has had to think about recently, and it'll be interesting whether they change their model as well. And then there's been the introduction of the Fanta strip in the Fantomen magazine and Rafael Ruiz's new style on the covers. And then even if you look at from the US point of view with the Natasha covers as well, is this different non-Cy Barry style, yes, cue all the heretic music that should be playing in the background now, about to be lynched by all the Cy Barry cult here. But do we need to encourage a different non-Cy Barry style of the Phantom to the next generation? Is that going to be key for getting the next generation? Like, even if you look at the Phantom 2040 style of the artist by George and John, I believe it is, that's a different style. The Natasha covers is a different style. Even the artwork in the Mag Cave series is a different style as well. That's probably not as much of a different style, but I'm just wondering, are we beginning to see the style guide from King Features? That's also a different style. So it's something that has my interest.
Well, I think you and I are on a very similar line in terms of reflection on 2025. There does seem to be this movement into Sorry?
I didn't even see that you wrote the same.
Yeah. It is a bit of a movement into a more modern age, and I guess we're watching it in real time. I think we've seen in our fandom big long periods of time, and stagnant's the wrong word because we've enjoyed it, but 30 years of Cy Barry, for instance, which was a vastly different style to Ray Moore. Now, would Ray Moore's style work in the 2020s, 2030s? Absolutely not. Is it time for an evolution? Well, King Features certainly seem to be saying that it is. So the foray into digital comics, yes, we're seeing more of that. The first ever web comic with 2040 is interesting, and it's clearly a move in that direction. The overall change in style at King Features seems to be directing people into. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, I suppose, for us longer term fans, but and there's a level of, do we trust King Features with what they're doing? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's an interesting one. That does seem to be the movement, and they're certainly steering the ship in a different direction. We just hope they're on the right heading.
I completely overlooked all the digital stuff because it's not something that's at the forefront of my mind. It's not something I'm going out to get, and so
I don't engage in any of it either, to be honest.
Yeah, like I mentioned on the chat just yesterday, that was the first time I've got myself up to date with the 2040 series since episode 2. So it's just not something that I'm going out and doing. So my reflection was slightly different. So I was thinking about the explosion of Aussie creators is continuing, and new ones are entering the fold. We mentioned was it Ben Brady before, and the new comics in the USA they've been good. You know, it's not rubbish. I'm not fantastic and setting the world on fire, but they've been good. They've had a bit of a stumble, showing the eyes, which is an absolute no-no. But on the whole, I think they've been good. And I hope they continue to find an audience and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was this year. What do we hope will be the big news of 2026 as we enter the Phantom's 90th birthday? Jem, what do you reckon?
Well, I've been saying this for the last 3 years. So if I keep saying it, eventually I'll be right. But that's the TV show.
Yeah. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, look, fingers crossed it is the TV show. That's there seems to be incrementally moving in that direction. Whether it happens or not, who knows? I'd also love to think that there's been enough interest in Saturday morning cards that there might be a volume 2 come out as well. Fingers crossed on that one as well. I think they've sold better than perhaps Dan from Saturday morning cards had thought. Hopefully, well enough for him to go down the path of a volume 2.
Yeah, that would be good. And like the two of you, I said the TV show. Hopefully we get some more news on that. I was just thinking about the Saturday morning cards and reflecting back on the chat that we had with him, and he was talking a lot about the Rocketeer and having the cards on that. And I actually went back and watched that movie just a couple of days ago. It was a fun movie. I did enjoy that. Now, Christian over in Germany, from a German point of view, he's looking forward to the Barday series as he is from Germany and have that national pride like Aussies do with their Frew comics. So hopefully he enjoys them. And Scott,
just unfortunate timing on Haina Barday because news was it this morning? Was it this morning or yesterday that we heard news that unfortunately Haina Barday has passed away, so won't actually see the release of those comics himself, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a shame. And Scott from the US, he is hoping that Mad Cave Studios is a long rumored series, and celebrations and fanfare Studios and Comic Kingdom really need to get out there. So it'd be good to see Mad Cave and Comics Kingdom and the Phantom just being more of a presence over there in the different comic cons that are over there in the States.
Just on that, I'll just quickly I think Scott raises a great point, is with the Mad Cave stuff but also with Comics Kingdom, there's a lot more artists and writers and creators that have actually got Phantom credits now. So it's not all just the ones that were producing Team Fantomen stories back in the the late 90s and early 2000s, like the Alex Siviaks and Keith Williams and stuff. Like there's that new generation of creators who are creating stories and covers and artwork for Mad Cave Studios and Comics Kingdom. So it's going to be interesting to see whether, that helps bring in some more readers, whether it's casual readers or whatever. But, seeing these artists and they've got their billboards behind them and they've got their comic art and their comics in front of them and stuff, having more Phantom. So I think it's a good choice by Mad Cave and Comics Kingdom and having these artists creators working on it, because hopefully we can get some fans out there from that as well.
All right, well, that is a wrap on 2025. So hopefully we've covered everything that meant something to you in your corner of the fandom world. If not, of course, get in touch with us. Make sure you comment furiously and angrily on the posts on social media. What about da-da-da? You forgot da-da-da. or give us a big thumbs up if you like what we've said. As always, thank you for listening to us, if that's what you've done on your favourite podcast app, or watching us if you've done that on YouTube. As always, all of this news and everything we do is on the website, chroniclechamber.com, and you can, of course, email us privately, and don't vent your spleen on the social medias. You can email us, chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We'd love to have you do that, because we love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and your opinions. To wrap it up, happy 2025, everybody. Let's look forward to an even bigger 2026, and as always, happy Fantoming.
Happy Fantoming.
The ghost who walks the phantom. Enemies beware, the phantom's always there, but you won't find the phantom. He fights